Here, let's go to some science real quick. We'll do some science. I got a couple minutes here. We'll do some science.
Finally, something I can actually respond to properly rather than just take pop shots at your personal opinions and assertions. Greetings and welcome there, people of YouTube. This is Descendant, and of course I'm continuing with the video response to the Idol Smashers. I only did half the video last time, so let's get straight into it.
DNA, we know, and no one's going to argue. If there's a scientist out there who argues with this, I'd love to hear from him that DNA is a mathematical code. The DNA contains information. You contain, I contain transmitted information. And the ability within that information to further that information being transmitted. Life is a transmission of information. Okay?
Actually, it's a biological code, yet like all else in reality, we can transfer it into mathematical code. You know, just like measuring a rock or something like that, we can transfer it into mathematics. That's one of the uses of maths. And yes, reproduction is the transferal of said code, yet if it does not replicate, by definition it is not classed as living. Also, if it does not replicate, it cannot evolve through the slight mutation from generation to generation. The way that this could happen in primitive cells was that they could actually absorb other primitive cells and mix the information together between replication events, and then of course in later life forms we get sexual reproduction, etc.
Transmitted information must have an intelligent source. Nowhere in nature do we find transmitted information from a non-living, or at least, I don't want to say living, yeah, let's say living, non-living source, an intelligent source.
Except we do. Firstly, what you're doing here around DNA is just attempting to form an equivocation fallacy to do with information, you know. Said information is only mathematical because we transfer it into mathematical information. This can be done with anything. For example, the size and volume of a rock can be turned into mathematical equations. You know, we form mathematics to help us understand the world and how it works. We don't go out there and see, you know, mathematical equations carved into the sides of mountains, as David Deutsch went on to humorously say, why don't we do that, you know, sort of thing. So you see, maths is designed to help us understand. Secondly, multiple organisms form messages through a number of different ways, you know, through oral to body language, and of course we have ants which do so chemically. They form rather complicated chemical signals which, you know, it allows for the ant hive to work in unison like a synapse, you know. It allows them to coordinate. I wouldn't class ants as particularly intelligent, as I class intelligence as the capability to learn things on a higher cognitive plane. However, they do form signals, so yeah, your point there seems to be a little bit misinformed and lacking.
It doesn't just happen. You just don't get information. Encoded, transmitted information.
Straw man fallacy. We are not saying that nothing happened, we are saying that something happened. You see, abiogenesis deals with the idea that, you know, basic chemical compounds came together and that they formed, you know, structures that could move, they could use resources, you know, they could replicate, and through replication could also evolve. You know, this is the basic format of a protocell, and what's more, this has been shown to occur via a process known as self-assembly, where the chemicals just form on their own. They require no exterior assistance in this formation. This was shown in the video titled The Line Between Life and Non-Life. So it's a bit more difficult for you there.
Certainly not in Darwin's theory, not in the lightning striking a mud puddle. Yeah, that's a real good response to the biogenesis law. Yeah.
You have a bit of a tit here, and allow me to explain why. You see, Darwin's theory never discussed abiogenesis or Pasteur's laws of genesis. So, you know, I'll be coming back to Pasteur's laws in a bit, but first of all, let me go on to do something else, and that is, I asked you for the citation, where you got that quote, and you gave me, you know, the name of the letter. I went and looked at it, and let's just view the entire, segment so we can get a better understanding of what Darwin was talking about and what he was arguing for. It is often said that all the conditions for the first production of a living organism are now present which could have ever been present. But if, and oh what a big if, we could conceive in some warm little pond with all sorts of ammonia and phosphoric salts, light, heat, electricity and carbon present, that a protein compound was chemically formed, ready to undergo more complex changes. At the present day, such matter would be instantly devoured or absorbed, which would not have been the case before living creatures were formed. See, the purpose of this letter and this argument was Darwin was trying to explain why a new, seed of life had not started and formed into a new tree of life. The fact that if new life did start, because it would be, so much, less complex than life is now, that it would be instantly absorbed. That's what it's trying to explain, why there isn't, a second tree of life. As for the conditions, he made some suggestions, and remember, he did say if, and that is a big if, on the materials and energy involved. Half a century after, the whole obsession with life and electricity was formed around the publishing of Frankenstein. It was a phenomenon of his age where we were beginning to understand the whole link between electricity and life, and it was quite natural at the time to link the two, and you can't really blame him for that. But the fact is, since then, we've gained more advanced techniques and we can form protocells through self-assembly. So really the only one who's coming out looking a bit like an arse in this is you.
Just lightning struck a mud puddle with the right stuff. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, remember I mentioned this science, the scientific method should be sacrosanct in science. That should be the only thing. That should be the only thing in science. And there's so much unobservable, unfalsifiable theory in science that trumps now the method. Trumps the facts. It's kind of sad.
Absolute bollocks. The specialists of today, just as the ones of the past, are all still restrained by the same bias towards their field. But the fact is, the methodology of science has improved vastly to try and control this, to try and lessen this through the creation of peer review, by the fact that you can now repeat an experiment. Through these things, we have attempted to lessen this. Another example is the fact that it used to be okay to do an experiment in a single condition. Take that singular condition and blanket it to all conditions. For example, boil a flask of pure water. Notice how no life exists in this pure water, which only has one of the conditions required for life out of the many conditions required for life, and therefore claim life cannot form anywhere. But we must also look at what Louis Pasteur was actually studying, because it's actually more of a misrepresentation of what he refuted than him actually doing this blanketing. I'll explain why. Louis Pasteur was refuting the concept of spontaneous generation, i.e. that multicellular life forms could snap into existence from nothing. Abiogenesis, however, does not claim this. Abiogenesis states that materials in the right conditions can self-assemblize into a very basic single-celled organism, or even a protocell. That is not the same. You cannot, however, disprove that, life cannot form through self-assembly. Therefore, the burden of proof is rightfully on us in that aspect. We take that on. But remember that video I stated earlier, the line between life and not life. The link is down below, so you can go see it. But do you want to know what it shows? We can form protocells that metabolize, they move, they take in extra information, and they can replicate. We can do this with very basic compounds, oils, clays, etc. We can show the formation of very basic life. Is it advanced? Hell no. Is it the step required? Certainly. Ergo, Pasteur's law of Genesis has been falsified. It has been broken. not through spontaneous generation, but through the process of abiogenesis and self-assembly to form primitive protocells that can replicate and therefore evolve. Yet Pasteur's legacy will still live on in germ theory and also in the process of pasteurization.
You cannot define the creator by the created. That's a logical impossibility. It's just stupid. There's no way it can be done. You cannot do it. A footprint doesn't look like a boot. A thumbprint doesn't look like a thumb. You can't take a bicycle and define the creator by it, or its builder, even the craftsman, the engineers, the designers. You can't. Their essence, yes, is in that bicycle. But you can't define a human being by that. Not properly. Can you? How the hell am I supposed to make a case for something that I know logically I can't do? Closest thing you're going to find to God's looking in the mirror, man.
So he's a psychologically androgynous bisexual atheist. Fact is, you can't just insert that everything that exists is the result of a creation of a deity that you cannot even prove exists. We know watchmakers exist. I can take you to a watchmaker, I can show you his trade, I can show you the signs of his trade, the signature on the watch, etc. The fact that this gear is quite obviously being tailored in a certain way. Why can't you do any of this for your God? Why can't you make a clearly predictive argument or model that is invariable, that you can't just respond to with an ad hoc, response? Rather, you're instilling the wizard fallacy. You're just going, God created the universe. Well, how did he create the universe? What would we expect to see if God created the universe? Give us something that we can test, and, if we can't falsify it, then yeah, you may have an argument there. But the fact is, you haven't given us anything to try and falsify. Therefore, it's unscientific. Therefore, you just can't assert it as that.
Because that's where you got to start yourself. That little voice inside your head. The other in you. You've got your own evil inclination. You know that, right? Essence of thought. You have an evil inclination like all human beings. And you've got to fight that evil inclination. Don't you? That's the point. Do you seriously think a tiger has an evil inclination? Do you think a fly has an evil inclination? Think a tree has an evil inclination? Seriously?
I don't believe evil exists. I believe harm exists, damage exists, yet not evil. Look at the moral triangle, and that gives you a very primitive understanding of where I sort of come from.
That Satan guy that you've been sold in the Bible is actually doing God's will. He's testing human goodness. He's working for God. He was never expelled. He's doing God's will. He's doing exactly what God made him to do, to be your evil inclination. He's not a separate entity from God. He doesn't rebel. He's not, his own thing. There's no rebellion angel. There's no such thing. That's made up. It's pagan.
Tell me, what idiot decided it would be a great idea to grab a fox and throw it inside a chicken coop? Because pitting mortal men and women against a supernatural being that has been shown clearly through your own religious text to be able to prick the ego of your God into torturing a man and killing his family, sounds like a great fucking plan to me.
But on Torah, you have an evil inclination. See, mankind's actions directly affect the visible world. We directly affect our children. We directly affect our neighbors. We affect the way life functions on this planet. Look at the way we treat it. Look at the way we treat each other. All that goodness that science has done. It caused more cancer than it ever has to cure it. Caused more ways to destroy the damn planet than it has saved it.
Both you and I agreed that science was amoral. Can we please play that clip again?
So I know that and science is bupkis. Science is bupkis on morality anyway. It's amoral. There's nothing moral about science.
So why the sudden shift in position? Also, in case you had forgotten, science has given us the means to fight cancer. There's a reason that average life expectancy has increased, due to the development of science. It hasn't decreased.
We poison the very air we breathe, the food we eat, deliberately. And you want to know where this morality thing, it's subjective? Are you serious?
Yes, and if too few of us view harm as bad and acknowledge that we as people need to fight this harm to ensure the survival of the human race and the betterment of mankind, we're going to go extinct. That is to do with evolution there. Fact is, it's pretty damned hard to motivate people to want to save the world when over half of the world's population are joyfully and blissfully waiting for the end times, i.e. from the child religions spawned from yours.
See, it's stuff like that that gets us in these kind of messes. That morality is subjective. It's not subjective, and you know that. Because deep in your heart, you know right from wrong, and you've known it since your youth. You've known there's a difference between good and bad. Good and evil. Even. Don't you?
No. I've empathized through people, put myself in their shoes, and decided that I should treat people how I myself want to be treated. The golden rule. It's very basic. It's been seen through a number of different societies. A number of philosophers have touched on it, What you are doing here is attempting to make an appeal to emotion, and it doesn't work with me at all, I just see it as that, and I see it as a rather childish play to try and prick at my heartstrings. Fact is, morality is subjective. This is an observable fact. You observe different societies, or historically, and you see morality, social norms, social values are all socially constructed concepts.
There are tools available that teach us to bring a balance, not to destroy the evil inclination, but to find the balance, the yin and the yang, to come to a place in yourself where day and night do not compete, but just exist.
That's actually a very good metaphor for my student life. I will just put that out there, and I'll certainly have to remember that one. Fact is, by arguing this, you are arguing that good and bad must exist in equal opposition to each other. There must be as much good as there is bad in the world, and I would argue, fuck the bad, try to get as much good as you can to further the betterment of man, to stop stagnation of society, etc.
And you don't perfect it. It's something you work on for life. That's why Torah is a living word. That's why there are no tenses in Torah.
And this, my friend, is why it is a load of subjective bull pretending to be objective bull, just along with the beliefs of every religious individual out there who cherry picks through their text. It's subjective pretending to be objective to try and give it a higher position, which it fails to do by the very facts that you ignore aspects of it, etc. You're in the exact same boat as me, buddy. I just admit it. I'm just honest with myself.
So, I don't have a case for this God guy. I've told you places you can look, things to look into. And hopefully I'd like to, inspire you to stop looking at, if you do, it seems you do on a couple of videos I've seen it, to make a blanket statement about believers.
Well, I am working from a model of correlation, and simply put, you fit that model very well.
When you really don't understand the root of where it all comes from. And you got to go to rabbis for that. Torah is not what you're thinking. And if you studied that, I think that would be enough. That's where I direct the atheists. Go talk to a rabbi, because they've got that little parting gift from Sinai. It's real. It's not just a story. It's real. That shiznat is real. Debunk it. Say what you want to say. Say some nasty stuff. Do what you got to do. Just don't make fun of my beard, okay, or the way I talk or whatever. Let's keep, because I've had plenty of people on your end of the YouTube pool who can be quite mean and be personal, and I'm putting my neck out here for you to do this. So try and be nice, will you? All right? I don't mean you ill will. I don't think you're damned to hell forever. There's no such thing as eternal damnation. Another Christian myth. James, the Idol Smasher at yahoo.com is my email address if you would like to get in touch with me. Thank you for watching. This is American Noachide Raw. Peace.
I hope I wasn't too insulting earlier, but it really does bug me when people A, lie, or B, pretend to have knowledge of an area where they quite clearly have none, where they haven't even checked, not even a little. Yet they pretend that, oh, you see how Pasteur's theory, which was designed to fight spontaneous, generation, quite clearly shows how abiogenesis is false. And as for the rabbi, a rabbi is only as good as a second-car salesman, you see. I would much rather go to an objective specialist and ask them about the topic at hand, this time, science, and ask whether it's correct or not. A rabbi is only in the job as long as people believe. A scientist continues to work regardless of what discoveries are made tomorrow. That's the thing. That's the difference. A rabbi is scared for his job. Scientists can always adapt and go to a different field if they find out their field is absolute rubbish, etc. Or, they could become the amazing person that refutes their field. That's the possibility. So a scientist wins either way. For a rabbi, they've got to make that sale or they go. So, yeah, that's the end of the video, and I hope people have enjoyed. Sorry if I've been sounding a bit different in this video, still coming out of the chesty cough. So, yes, don't forget to click like, subscribe. I've got my Facebook group up as well if you want to go check that out. So, yeah, this is Descendant 4. Take care and out.